The system is crumbling. It's decaying, falling apart at the seams. Intervention into the markets have caused a massive dislocation. Like the earth buckling in a massive earthquake, the tectonic shift push and pull what was once steady and stable into an absolute hellhole. Every paper asset has become a playground for computer algorithmic trading, while the individual is unable to save a penny. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, let's cover a bunch of different issues, beginning with this. John McCain is increasingly mad as hell about President Trump, and on Friday he went after Trump hard. During the speech in Munich, the Republican senator pointed a striking point-by-point takedown of Trump's worldview and brand of nationalism. He didn't mention Trump, but apparently he didn't have to. I mean, McCain, this goes back to years ago, an individual that is on the inside. He's as inside as it gets. One of the minions of the system, a powerful person indeed in the realm of the minions, let's say. And this individual here goes to Europe and tries to push the agenda there. They want to create enemies worldwide. This is the idea for what could be the fomenting of war. War is ever profitable. There are many different types of war these days, but ultimately the military-industrial complex is making a lot of money. And even if it doesn't go into a hot war or anything else, cyber war or whatever, just the thought that it could means you need more military presence, more munitions, more technology, everything. And that gets the businesses booming. So it's interesting what's happening with, the Cold Wars that take place. You know that the military is still making money in that way. All right, let's look at this. Apple Inc. in the coming months will start assembling its lower price iPhone at the plant in southern India. And this is seemingly a little different of a situation rather than going to China. And what we can see, what we've noted here before, is that China has decided to slightly increase the wages that these individuals make. Then you have the terrible conditions that are going on and all of the news that has come out from Foxconn. Those factories there are obviously in terrible conditions, and that's getting too much media attention. So what do? You make it in India instead. Not in the US, it's being made in India. US car maker Ford is sticking with a plan to open up 2 auto parts plants in Mexico this year, despite earlier it had announced that it scrapped the plans for separate factory there. The money that is given to these corporations, whether that is through the easing on taxation on the big corporations instead of on everybody, that is. And then you have all sorts of different loopholes. You have the bailouts, which funneled money directly from the taxpayer into the hands of these corporations. What do? They build factories overseas. They take your money and they build factories overseas. This was most notable with factories opening up in China and Brazil. And what do? I think it was even previous to that, opening up factories, the Chevy Volt in China. I mean, you have to look at it and think to yourself, who ultimately is in control of the corporations? At least on the surface level, we would say that the shareholders are. And the board of directors and, all of the C-class individuals, the CIO, the CEO, and everyone else, the presidents and everything, they need to answer to the shareholders. Then that means having profits increase every single quarter. And how do you do that? Well, you don't take your production line and make it, put it somewhere where it's going to be more expensive. No. They've done that where they move the jobs overseas, and then they're going to replace those jobs with automation. Don't worry, it's going to be replaced soon enough. Anyway, that's what I see. Plants could open up in the US. I'm not saying that they're not going to. I do believe that they will, in fact. But ultimately, big business, it's taking its profits overseas, and it's just the way it is. You're chasing corporate profits. The maximum amount of profit is required at all times. Speaking ahead of an address to the Munich Security Conference, the richest man in the world, Bill Gates, said that while governments are concerned with the proliferation of nuclear and chemical weapons, they are overlooking the threat of biological warfare. And so I read the article anyway and was thinking, all right, what's Bill Gates selling today? An individual that, the biological warfare, I even talk about it in my new book, where they talk about 200, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken, 200 incidents a year of different biological components going missing. They have these diseases that they either create or they make it into a weapon, biological warfare, and then it escapes their facilities. Oops. And that was even confirmed in a case which I covered on the channel before. I believe there was one facility, lockdown facility. Nearby there was another facility that had some sort of apes or something, and even though they're not ever supposed to come in contact with each other, somehow they tested those apes and they had that virus or whatever it was. And how does that happen? It's on purpose, everyone. It's on purpose to see how it would spread. Let's keep a close eye on it. Don't say anything, and let's just see what happens. How fast do these biological agents spread? What would happen? Would the news pick it up? Would people be concerned? Would, anything? They test. They're always testing. And the testing isn't done in the laboratory. No. It's done in the real world. Look at how they sprayed people, believe it or not, in, I think it was Chicago. This has been a few years back, where they were spraying people in the subway to test chemical agents. No, it's a neutral. It's neutral, this one. We promise. It's totally neutral, but we're going to test for it. Anyway, stop the ranting here. All right, speeding up the vaccine production. Thank you, Mr. Gates, for increasing the vaccine production. Thank you, Mr. Gates, for going to India and immediately upon giving the vaccines to the Indians, I think the statistic was 50,000 people, innocent people, had polio paralysis right after getting their vaccines. And those are the last numbers I saw, 50,000. Why weren't they any higher? Well, quite frankly, I think as soon as the news got out, and that was at the 50,000 mark, they shut that down. And not the vaccine issuance, the inoculations. No. They did this, stopping the media from reporting on it. That's what happens. That's how you shut down the truth. U.S. corporations have long resisted bending to the demands of the computer hackers who take their networks hostage, are increasingly stockpiling, believe it or not, Bitcoin. the digital currency so they can quickly meet ransom demands rather than lose valuable corporate data. So there are individuals out there who are holding companies and individuals hostage. They are saying, you owe me money if you want your data back. I have the encryption keys. Your data has been encrypted. And if you want it back, you got to pay me. So they're simply setting up Bitcoin wallets ready, purposely ready to dish it out to people who hack into their systems. This has gone to a new level. I find it interesting, though, that it's in Bitcoin because that's what these individuals perhaps would like. It's an encrypted service, and you can be able to transact nice and easily. It would do well for somebody who's hacking into your computer systems. This right here is a growing problem because it could be used as a disadvantage. It could be used against us. They could say, we, create a false flag out of it and say that our government agency has been hijacked by, China or Russia or whoever, and we need to basically just for a short period of time, we need to halt your freedom of speech. Just for a short period of time, we have to halt this freedom or that freedom, and soon enough, you'll have nothing. It's a classic case that I worry about all the time. This one here just, it really got to me. ACLU sues the county over fencing around Santa Ana River homeless encampment. Whatever the article's about doesn't even matter. What's important is that the homelessness has become so bad that there are camps everywhere. Tent cities are becoming so popular. And yet, we have the ignorant masses that come out and say stupid things like everything is just fine, you're a fearmonger, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, stop, all this hate. When I'm coming out and I'm just reporting the truth. The US and the West in general is in a mess. And I'm being politically correct. I'm being nice by saying it's in a mess. It's a friggin' hellhole. I'm looking at it. Every day I get reports of homelessness, of poverty increasing, of people suffering. You know how many people contact me directly and talking about their suffering? You don't want to hear that and not be able to bring that out. You want to share that information and make people realize, look, you and your neighbors, you might be okay, but the person down the road isn't. Now, what is the best way to solve all of the problems that we are encountering today? All of them is that we need to increase prosperity. And of course, that's not going to happen. We could do it on an individual level. Individuals can become more prosperous, can reduce their expenses, learn how to get out of debt, learn how to make income, all these different things. But in general, if we were to increase prosperity, there would obviously be less poverty, there would be less homelessness, you would have individuals earning more income. That means they could buy more things. That means that small businesses and big businesses will start to do better. You will have less crime because, of course, where there is poverty, there is crime. This is important to note. And this is what I'm trying to do in my own way. I'm trying to help out. I'm creating books. I got all the plans. I've talked about it before. Let's move on. I thought this was really interesting. I couldn't believe it. I had to read it twice. But in some places around the world, they tell you that gold has no economic value. Like when I spoke to an individual who works, let's just say he works for a wealth management company in Canada, And he said, gold has no economic value. And was very upset at me, actually, at the thought that you should have gold as part of your portfolio. One of the first post-Soviet republics to adopt a new currency and let it trade freely, Kyrgyzstan, hope I pronounced that correctly, central bank wants every citizen to diversify into gold. Can you believe it? He's saying it's his dream, the governor. It's his dream for every one of the 6 million citizens to own 100 grams, that's 3.5 ounces of gold. That's huge. To tell your citizens that you should invest in gold, saying gold can be stored for a long time, and despite, this is what I always say, this is why the reason I'm bringing you this article, gold can be stored for a long time, and despite the price fluctuations on international markets, it doesn't lose its value for the population as a means of savings. That's the key. That's why I like gold. A lot of people are invested in gold purely on the speculation that it's going to go up in price, they're going to sell it at the peak, and they're going to live free. You can do that if you'd like to. I wish you all the best. I really do. I don't know what's going to happen with the price. It should be higher from what I've researched on my own, just based on all the mathematical formulas and everything that I've seen. But I don't know. But I do believe that everyone should have some gold in their portfolio. Worst case scenario, you hand it down to your children, you hand it down to family members, friends, whoever. That's important to note. And then another thing about gold. This is actually an interesting article or image, a set of images that you should check out if you're interested in gold or not interested in gold. This is the Visual Capitalist. They do a lot of really good work. This is all of the gold mined in human history sitting beside the Statue of Liberty, just to give you an idea of how little gold there actually is. Think about that. All the gold in human history, all of it piled up beside the Statue of Liberty. It's rare. There's no doubt that it is rare. Now, perhaps there's a lot more down in the earth, but at this time, look at it. There's not much there. And then it shows you compared to different things. Basically, it's interesting that when I look at the dollars that they're printing, all this fiat currency, the paper assets, it's infinite. They can just continue to print and print and print and print. Whereas when you have a solid base, some sort of fundamental there, you have a more solid foundation. That's all I'm trying to say. Something real behind all of this fiat would really help out a lot. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you will find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. So head over to Amazon. They have a look inside feature that's going to allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.